All right, cool. So we saw the 3D printed castle standing in amazing condition after 10 years.
Looks similar like before.
Yeah, and it's like the Hive project in Round Top. You added a couple colors in the layers.
Yeah, but round top we do it for a reason. We try to make a design. For castle I just use all kind of leftover for, grout for tiles.
So that's how you get the blue line and the red line.
Yeah, it was just grout from another project.
It looks pretty intentional. So before you got involved in 3D printed concrete, what was your engineering experience you had to be comfortable tackling a problem like this?
I built houses all my life and always experimented, and usually we build houses like custom houses for rich clients, and experimented a lot of different materials and technologies to get better result.
And did you study engineering in school? Do you have a degree?
Yeah, I have a few educations, but it was Russian education. I cannot use it here in the US. That's why I have to do it manually.
And so after doing home construction with stick-built construction, or was it cinder blocks?
I'm not a big fan of stick construction because once in my life I saw a fire of my neighbor's house, just catch fire from electrical, some problems, and it was torch about, I don't know, 300 feet. I saw it once and I decided, okay, wood is good material, maybe, but better use concrete.
So using a concrete printer, you had to learn about circuitry and electrical and servo motors or stepper motors. And
yeah, I have some background. When I was a kid in high school, I was playing with electronics. I had some background, but not much about digital and steppers and programs. I had to study it.
And so is this printer sitting right here the same one that you developed 10 years ago and printed the castle with?
No, it's kind of few years later. The printer for castle, it was how to say, I don't know, nightmare.
Well, it was the first try.
The very first one was small printer, and I was trying to print January. It was really cold. I printed the very first kind of project. I printed in my garage. It was cold and small object. It was really complicated. So I decided, okay, small objects not exactly the best for concrete printing.
Because you want more time for each layer?
Yeah, I tried to use torch and other tricks, but it doesn't work much. So bigger project like castle, it was an experiment, and I got all the required knowledge about printing process.
And from there, you printed the castle and put it on your website. And I think anybody who's been learning about 3D printed construction for more than 5 years has been on your website. It was like wildly popular, maybe the top result for a long time when you searched for 3D printed construction. Did you post that website 10 years ago, or did you wait after the print to share the pictures online?
I didn't have any websites that time. My neighbor saw the project and talked to someone, another guy talked to another guy, and someday a lady just appears here on my job site and said, okay, I am from a local newspaper. And she took pictures and made kind of article and posted, and next day TV and everybody just started to call me. I was really surprised. I didn't expect it so to get so much publicity.
So the company wasn't profitable at that time. It was like a hobby, right?
I had 2 jobs to be able to run this project.
Construction jobs?
Yeah, construction, remodeling. I had to make money to buy materials and make printer and everything was in my two-car garage, small garage, and not much space for this kind of experiments. But I was kind of believer in that technology, and spent all my time to try to build pumps, extruders, experimenting, and nobody believed. No one, even my wife, she just was okay. Probably it's not gonna work, but do what you do.
She believed in you enough to let you put the castle in the backyard. That's a lot more than some other wives might.
Yeah, after I finished printing that castle, people kind of excited
Yeah.
and start to call me all around the world. But 99% people were kind of tourists,
Mm-hmm.
just want to talk about that, no really do anything seriously. But someday I got email from Philippines. The guy from Philippines said, okay, I believe in the technology, I want to invest in the technology, let's come to Philippines. I'm gonna buy you a ticket, I want to see you in Philippines.
Not just you a ticket for the printer, and you shipped everything.
First, he just bought me ticket.
Okay.
Just one or two emails, and he just bought me ticket. Okay, let's come. We're gonna talk here about when and what exactly we're gonna print. He was, the guy was from LA,
Okay.
an American, and he got pretty good business in Philippines about hotels, bars, and 1 week later we signed an agreement.
Wow.
He sent me money and I built printer for him, and it was really exciting part how to get from airport security all the parts. I had like 7 bags, extruder, some parts, and we just bring it to Philippines, start to assemble gantry locally there from local parts. It was fun part. And about 2 months we built the printer, and probably another month or 2 to print that project, that hotel. And only after we printed that hotel, he said, Andrey, finally I see it works, because I see it staying here right in front of me. So he invested, but he also kind of curious if it's gonna work or not.
He invested in a printer, but he didn't invest in your company, right? You have separate companies.
Well, we were trying to build a printer in the Philippines about printing houses. He invested on printer, not my company. And we had great plans about that. But unfortunately, finally he was kidnapped and everything gone. We had to stop that business.
Wow. Yeah, that's fascinating. I guess the printer's still in the Philippines?
I guess local guys already cut it and use it for building fences, cars and something.
Sure.
They're very handy guys building cars from nothing.
So how
from
long
scrap.
after the castle was that?
He contacted me a few months after the castle, and we printed that house in Philippines, the hotel, 2015.
Do you think he was involved in some other dangerous businesses?
Probably. But the problem is he was too open to public, and he posted a lot of pictures about printer, about process. And finally, the very last phone call I got, or text message, I don't remember. He said, Andrey, I just sealed deals. I just sealed a deal to print 2,000 houses for government. And 1 week later, he was kidnapped and never come back.
Very suspicious. That makes me think to look into who printed the 2,000 houses, because if the government needed 2,000 out, maybe there was a competing contract or...
Definitely was competing. I know exactly the companies who was competing with him. Sad story. I was kind of depressed for several months because you know, he was a great guy. He was former Intel engineer. He built computers, not computers, the chips.
The most important part.
I took it seriously, and I decided just stop talking about it. For several years, I have never talked to anyone. Actually, you're first people first man I'm talking to you about the details about my business at all. For years, we just decided to do it quiet, because if you're doing really something serious, really serious innovation, not just cell phone application, another cell phone application, but something really advanced, you're gonna need to be careful what you're talking, what you're doing. Now it's easy because many companies on market, and nobody gonna kill you for such innovations anymore.
There's too many of them. It would be not enough coincidence to get them all.
Yeah. But we were first on market who were able to print real houses, not just development, but we printed. The house in the Philippines was 1,300 square feet, like in one piece, livable. It's still be there. And some companies kind of afraid of competition. And Louis, he was always posting images and talking about how cheap we can do it. And he signed contract, I believe, like 30% less or 40% less price compared to competitors. That's probably what happened.
So the next project, when you started printing again, was it the Hive project or the Von Perry project?
We printed a few projects, but we never posted any information about that. The first project we posted the images and information, it was Hive 3D.
And that project, I just filmed a tour with Tim, and it's about to be sold on the market. I think they're going to sell it for like $700,000 or something, he said. That project seemed to go pretty well. It gave Tim a great first experience with concrete printing, where he then bought a printer and started printing some other projects himself. What I noticed on that building, some of the things people talked about in the video, like the conduit was exposed on the outside of the wall. Did you put the conduit on the outside of the wall in the Von Perry project as well?
From very beginning, they wanted to do some kind of structure design, and they decided to expose it condos. It was fine, I was okay with that. The problem is, if you're doing such modern design, some contemporary design, you have to do more details. They do just condos, and that's why people kind of concerning about that. To me, it looks just great, but I believe it should be more exposed details if you do it just condos. That's why. Next project, Von Perry, we did regular condos inside the walls, and nobody complained about that, because people used to see. People usually want to see what they used to see before. Everything new, it's kind of tricky. You have to do it really, really good, attractive, if you do something new.
Yeah, Von Perry is interesting. You worked with them after Hive, and unlike Hive, Von Perry isn't still in 3D printed construction. I guess I had met with them before they were working with you, when they were still enrolled in school, and they were telling me about their plans to start printing, and they raised money on Start Engine, but I guess they didn't raise enough money, or it wasn't exactly what they expected. What happened to Von Perry?
Yeah, that's what exactly happened. They tried to raise money and no success. They was not able to get more money to print more project. And so we finished that project in Dallas, and they probably stop it for a while. I don't know what they're gonna do in the future, maybe come back later with money.
Yeah, one thing I respect about it is that they were outright in saying they're done. Whereas some other companies kind of, they stop working, but they don't say, they're just like, oh, I don't know.
Too much expectation. Some people read articles in internet and expecting it's going to be like half price or
Press a button, just go, and it does everything by
Yeah.
itself.
But in reality, if you're gonna deal with concrete printing, you need some experience in construction. You need some extra money just in case something goes wrong. And you have to stay until it's done and never give up. Most people don't do it, don't have it. And a lot of projects fail just because too much expectation and finally just cannot finish it right way. Also another problem is every time I'm suggesting, okay guys, if you want to start a project, do something small, like 1,000 square feet, 1,200. But people always want to make something exciting and bigger and bigger and bigger. We're talking about 1,000 square feet, finally they're printing 3,000 square feet. And 3,000 square feet, a new project, a new machine, it requires time to learn about process and team. Several people have to work together, understanding what they're really doing. Sometimes it's too big projects to learn. Better learn on something smaller. If you fail, you can always break walls and print it over. It's not a big deal. I did it a few times. I'm kind of attention to details. I like to make it right way. And if I see something wrong about like cracks, okay, let's just stop and break it and start to print over.
People don't understand that's what it's required to end up with a good quality print. Because the concrete, once it's placed there, it will be like that forever. So if you don't like the way the layer looks, the only way to get every layer looking good is if you have a bad layer, you have to remove the layer and maybe start from where you left off. So after the Von Perry project, the next one was in Ohio?
Yeah, Lima. It was very smooth, except I got COVID.
Oh no.
But printing was kind of everything okay. The only problem we got about pump, we tried to print faster and there was some limit on pump. And at certain speed it's kind of stopped working. So we have to replace pump and hoses, bigger diameter hoses, but overall it works fine. And that guy was kind of expert about construction, about everything was on time.
That's good.
It was smooth. Compared to printing in Dallas, when we come to job site, it was like no water, no power. I had to stay there and wait until we got all the required parts. And it was start to raining, it was winter, and we have to wait. It was long-term project. But other way, it was custom design, like roof, like that.
Yeah.
It also was kind of big experience. It's hard to print roof like that. But we got experience now, it is a piece of cake.
The printer, every layer is flat, so you need to just do a reduction in every 10 centimeters or so.
Yeah, but every time it's shorter and shorter and shorter, and finally we have just short line, and you have to reduce speed. But reducing speed also kind of tricky because depends what weather condition. If it's hot, it's also a problem if you're printing just short piece of.
And if you reduce the speed, you need to slow down the pump?
Yes, and if it's hot, the material inside the hoses gonna clog hoses. So we cannot print too slow, we cannot print too fast. It's kind of experience, but finally we got solution. Now it's not a problem at all.
And you developed your own mixing system.
Yeah, we always build everything from scratch. All the pumps and all the system, it's custom made.
Is the mixer for the printer you're building now the same as the mixer you used in Dallas?
No. We have few different systems for different purpose. For smaller project, let's say if you need to print just one house or couple houses, it's better to use that mixing system you saw before in Dallas. But for bigger project, of course, it's better to use dry mix to bring like bags and just connect it to mixing system. Everything about weather condition, size of house, speed. There's no like one single solution. And for high climate, we made a special printer which is printing like just flying like that. It's print really fast, but much more expensive.
Because in a hotter climate, the concrete's curing faster, so you have less layer time.
You have to have ability to print fast if you need. Sometimes there's no need to print too fast.
If it's cloudy or not too hot.
Cloudy, not too hot, or you print in like windows. There's also kind of below in windows and after windows. It's kind of different amount of material you have to print, so it's different timing.
Yeah, all of those details are what's maybe would take a long time to teach another operator to be to run a print if you weren't there.
Yeah, it takes time to learn, to teach. Another topic is how to properly design the houses. Is it going to be round corners? Is it going to be 90-degree corners? Arches, no arches? It all kind of affecting on speed. Sometimes I am over-design house if we print in cold conditions. Because cold conditions, I need more linear feet to print slower. For hot climates, I'm recommending doing like shortest as possible to print faster. And again, most houses I see now on the internet, they're just round corners house. To me, it's nothing special. Yeah, we also do it sometimes. But again, there's more possibility about more advanced design houses.
Yeah, the parametric wall is very popular in the Hive house. That's a nice demonstration of that would be so hard to build by hand.
Yeah. Funny, when I design it, I just forgot about that. And the next day we start to print, and printing kind of start to jerking and moving. I was like, what's going on? I forgot about that wall. And Tim just, Andrey, something wrong, printer broken. Next layer. I see, oh, okay, it's parametric wall. Gotcha.
That was the first project I saw with aircrete infill. So you mixed a different type of material on site. And that's insulation as well as the structural part of the building?
They do it without me, so I cannot say exactly the mix. The idea was to use foamcrete, but I already started another project, so I cannot say much exactly what they're doing.
Sure. The project in Dallas, is that the same, is that also foam, or what did they do structurally?
Yeah, it's foamcrete. The house in Dallas, it's really strong house. There's no way tornado or something gonna destroy it, the walls. I cannot say anything about roof, because roof is like the building without me. I don't know details how they connected it to the walls, But I can say for sure that house is going to be indestructible. The walls, I mean.
Do you have any idea what the R value is of the foamcrete?
Yes, we have chart of table of all details. It depends what thickness. That house also have different kind of walls. How wide is the walls? It was again, it was a real experimental house. I mean, that the guys experimented. My part was just printing, but the design of the house, they develop it. I like the design, contemporary design, looks nice.
Yeah, it does. So you've done a few projects operating the printer as usually a subcontractor, printing the walls, and then you move on to the next project. But also you mentioned you just sold a printer.
Yeah, we make printers for sale, but not too many. The big problem was about COVID. Because before COVID, we had absolutely different business model. I was focusing mostly on making and selling printers. And I had about 10 orders on printers. Many orders were paid already. But when COVID, everything starts and people just call me and say, okay, I don't know what's going to be next. So can you return me money? I had no choice, I just returned money. And we lost time and we lost a lot of money like many other people. And after COVID, we just decided, okay, it's hard to fly now, tickets are expensive, much more complicated compared before, and we start to print houses. Now we're focusing mostly on printing. Selling printers is a kind of tricky business too, because I have to provide support.
A lot of support.
A lot of travel, and printing, I cannot say it easier, it's not easier, but at least you stay here, you see what's going on. No need to talk hours on phone, because clients just, printer stop working, what do I have to do? Okay, first check how many volts you have, and next. Electronics and motors, steppers usually works fine, no problems, but USB connection or something else. On one project we have a big problem. Every time printer just stop and go. There's something wrong. I don't understand what's going on. We spent like day to figure out what's wrong. And finally I found it was just bad connection about extension cord. And when it sparks, it kind of sends, I don't know, a signal or something.
Sure.
And circuit board kind of feeling it. They're getting that kind of wireless signal. Some kind of strange frequency. It should not be like that, but it happened.
And that caused the change in the movement of the printer.
Yeah.
It's always something different. Like when I visited your Dallas project that day, you figured it out, but in the beginning there were some Wi-Fi troubles. So whether it's the electricity, the Wi-Fi, the water,
Yeah. One day, Wi-Fi just stopped working. Absolutely no reason. I could not figure out. Later I just find I forgot to pay for
Starlink.
Yeah. Another day it was Windows update. I hate Windows update. Printer works, everything fine, and just stops. What's going on? Windows update. And it takes like an hour to update. We have to wait. Very strange, but
Always the worst time, those Windows updates. It's a fascinating suite of problems with 3D printed construction because you have the software, the hardware, the materials. It's like you need expertise in so many different subjects, construction. It's pretty incredible. So going forward, do you think you'll pursue more printer sales or projects that you would print yourself?
now we're focusing mostly on printing houses. Making printers now, it's kind of side business only for people who really want that printer. A lot of companies around the world making printers now. And If you want to buy a printer, there's many options. But if you want to buy our printers, it's kind of certain design printers for certain projects. Yeah, we can do it. But it's not our goal. Our goal now printing, I'm focusing more on tornado-proof and hurricane-proof houses.
So what's your ideal customer look like?
We usually work with contractors or builders because we take in orders like 10 houses minimum, from 10 to 100. And I know sometimes people call me and say, okay, can you print one house for me? Well, technically yes, if it's like custom expensive house, but I cannot print I cannot use cost saving technology if it's just one house. Too much time for dealing with engineers, delivery, installation. Especially about permits. Sometimes it's easy to get permits, sometimes it takes months. Like I said, in California, we spent 1 year. And I just say, okay, enough. 1 year, that's too much for endless talking, emails.
How long does it take you to set up the printer once it arrives on site?
Usually a few days. I mean, if you have bigger project, like a few houses, I can move printer in a couple hours. But in a new area, a few days, 2, 3, 5 days, usually 1, 2, 3 days. Depends how quick we want to install it.
You definitely want to make sure all the calibration is right and square, plumb.
Yeah, it's not a big deal about calibration. We can do it in a couple of hours. More a problem about sticking from a slab, pipes, wiring. So we have to make several dry run tests to round the wires and pipes. And sometimes it's made wrong. You have blueprint, you have 3D model, and it's not the same. And slab, also not the same. You're trying to figure out, okay, how to move that wall to make sure that pipe's going in bathroom, not bedroom.
Does the printer operate on 240 or 480 volts?
240.
240. And
Our printers use 240.
that's convenient, so you don't need if the house has electrical, you could just use the electrical wired for the building. Do the generator needs 480?
We always keep generator just in case, because a couple times we got problems with power outage.
Or sorry, I meant the mixer pump is 240 or 480?
240.
So it's all no 480?
No.
That's convenient. Yeah, that's great. So you typically don't need a generator?
Typically no. Couple times we use it just because no power. But 90% time we don't really use it.
It's much cheaper if you don't need it.
It's loud. I don't like when it's.
Plus, it's like $1,000 a week to rent, right?
Generator, I bought generator for $500.
You bought it.
It's 7 kilowatt.
For 240 is cheaper, I guess. I think Sunbelt charges a lot of money for a 480 generator, but the less equipment you have on site, the cheaper everything.
That's why we designed printers for 240. Easier.
Did you build your first printer in America, or what the first one you ever built was in Russia?
The very first one I built, I was like 20 years old in Russia. It was very primitive system, no electronics, just like switches. It kind of works, really bad, but I was able to print like square, like a barn.
In concrete or what material?
Concrete.
Concrete.
Same material.
I know some companies that sell printers in Europe, when they sold a printer in the States, none of the electrical stuff worked because of the voltage difference. Did you have to change the wiring to print?
We made a few printers for Europe,
You did.
And we have to make it according to European three-phase. I believe it's 380 volts, three-phase, and 220, 230 volts, one phase, single phase. We can do it because, well, anyway, motors going from China. They can make both 50 hertz, 60 hertz.
So you need a lot of different parts. It's not just the wiring. You need different motors.
Yeah. It's tricky to work for both Europe and America.
Yeah. What % of the printer needs to change from a European to American? Maybe 10% of the parts or more, if you were to roughly guess.
For electronics, we can use just transformer, but more problem about motors for pumps and mixers.
Okay.
And not only about motors, but also about VFD, variable frequency drive, because it's not the same.
So you can slow down the printer and have the material slow down as well.
Yeah. And it's another tricky part of the printer because not all VFD are good, bad, doesn't fit. It's kind of science. Science and experience.
So if somebody out there wants to print between 10 and 100 homes, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Give me a call.
I don't know if you want to put your phone number on the internet. What's your website is?
I'm usually using WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
Yeah, we have website, totalcustom.com. Custom starts from K.
So they can contact you on totalcustom.com and get your WhatsApp from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Your website went so viral early on. What was it like going internet viral almost 10 years ago?
Because 10 years ago, not only concrete printing, but all the printers was kind of up. People believe it's gonna change our life, our everything. Well, it's changing. Not that much.
The details changed, like it changed aerospace a little bit. It changed, I know that the SpaceX ships are done with some 3D welding. And also the superconductors are kind of printed in like whatever 1 or 3 nanometer. So it's changed a lot of stuff, but just if you're looking around, you can't see what it's changed, but the details changed. But so you were saying 3D printing was popular and your website was really popular, and you were getting inundated with messages, dozens every day.
Well, I would say a lot of changes. It's not only about 3D printing and technology, it also people kind of start to think in 3D. But before, usually people think like 2D. So it big changes about attitude and how do people now can see the things. Even me, I'm always using 3D printer just to make small parts and see how it really works.
Sure.
Prototyping and 3D modeling, it changed a lot for all kind of industries. It's not exactly for aerospace production engines or something, but prototyping, it's really big thing about to see model, to print it in 1 hour. Even houses, before printing big house, we usually print smaller model. The very first model about that size.
In plastic.
Yeah. Yes. If you need, we can print about that size to show a client. Because many people, they want something and they don't really understand what they want. And you have to show it how it's really gonna look like. 3D model of the house also helps a lot. We make a lot of changes about floor plan after showing a 3D model.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. When people first get started printing concrete, what are some things that they learn was different from what they expected? Like, what surprises them the most?
To me, it's mostly surprising when people just come and see the first layer, especially like a family of men, women, and kids. Just kind of walking. That's my bedroom. That's my bedroom. Why it's so small? I want a bigger one. Every time we print in the floor plan, the first layer, it looks kind of small. People want it bigger. But when we print a couple more feet, they start to be excited. Okay, it's so big.
Yeah, that's fascinating. When somebody buys a printer, how long does it take to train them in order to use it on their own without you?
We usually offer like basic training. It's like about 1 month. We stay with client to print the first house, the first project. Usually, after one project, they're kind of okay with the technology. They know like a lot, but of course not everything. Troubleshooting is going to be another kind of training. But I would say more. It's not only training, it just takes time to process in brain. It's changing process of construction. And if you build stud frame home, stick frame home, usually you have 2D floor plan. And when we build it, sometimes you can just cut the wall and make changes.
Sure.
In concrete printing, I'm always suggesting you better spend more time to make a really good 3D model. All the details, like fireplace, columns, like everything you want, you have to add. And spend more time on prepare 3D model. And the house, it's gonna be smooth printing. If you don't care about that, let's say we have several problems about window size. Because usually I'm saying, okay, give me exact dimension of the windows. I need to know precisely what rough opening I have to make for windows. Sometimes people don't care. Saying, oh, let's make 3x4. And when we print it already done, they start to waste too much time at trying to adjust it to install that windows. Doesn't make sense. If I do my own project, usually I'm just going to Home Depot, take measure and measure exactly the size of windows before I just buy it. Windows and doors, precisely. We can print precisely like 1/16. And that house in Dallas, we just measure exactly size of windows and doors. There's no need any like jams or shims. We just install it and silicone. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, the closer connection, the less silicone you need, less gap. I guess it all comes down to good planning.
And it's kind of different compared to what it was before. I work a lot with architects and clients at always process of to understand what client want. There's no way to get information from client like in 1 hour, even 1 day. You have to make a few meetings, several meetings. First day, just like, hi, how are you? What you want? Next meetings talking about kitchen. Next meeting talking about, I don't know, what kind of roof.
I guess at least one meeting has to be about educating them how the printer works so they can design for the printer.
Yeah, and about the difference between traditional technology and new technologies.
Have any like senators or congress people come and visited the castle here in your backyard?
No.
A couple news stations though.
Yeah, couple news stations and all my neighbors wanted to take pictures in front of castle. First year, a lot of students from local universities just come here, like a tour. I was thinking about selling tickets.
It's incredible it was 10 years ago, because still today I'll drive somewhere where a new printed building is the first printed building in the state or the town, and still it gets a similar reaction where a lot of the local newspapers want to see it, the local students and local contractors, everybody wants to come check out what a 3D printed building is. It's interesting your neighbors think it's old news now.
Now my neighbors are kind of used to that.
Of course.
castle. Not a big deal. But first year, a lot of people was kind of excited. It was many articles, many books.
So you've come all this way without taking any investors, which is pretty incredible. Gives you a lot of control and ability to operate the business how you want. Would you consider accepting investors now if somebody was interested?
We tried to get investors. The first time when I just developed the very first printer, I was looking just $50,000. No one gave me, no one. After printing castle, I was looking for $500,000. No way, nobody gave me. And later I just figure out I'm just wasting time to try to deal with investors. Decide, okay, does it make sense? And start to develop ourselves with my friends, relatives. And now we have technology is already developed. That makes sense to deal with any investors about printers. But we open for investors who want to invest in printing houses, printing house developments. That's fine. We open for that.
Especially in fire tornado zones.
Yeah. Like I said, almost every day I see news about some town destroyed, completely destroyed in Oklahoma, Kansas, every day. I'm just wondering, why wouldn't we print houses there? Because if you print house, you're gonna stay inside the house. It's guaranteed you're gonna be safe. There's no need to hide underneath of table or I don't know, whatever.
So for the Hive project, that's fully permitted as a residential building. Was that difficult to get permitting?
Yes and no. As usual. Usually it's not a problem to get permitting process in smaller towns and villages. There's no problem because local guys always open to help us. But bigger cities, always complicated. That's why we're trying to print outside of city limits.
Yeah, the Dallas project was, I guess, far enough away from Dallas that you didn't have to deal with the city too much.
City was just everybody knows about the project. There was waiting when we finish it to come to see what's going on. They kind of help us.
Good.
So we have no problem about permitting in Dallas.
I guess if you're doing something different like 3D printed construction, it could be easy for them to say no if they want to say no and they want to be difficult. But if you're in a municipality where they're open to the idea and they're excited about it, then they can make it work.
Yeah. Bigger city, bigger bureaucracy.
Were there any places you wanted to print and the bureaucracy didn't let you? Or you tried to do a project?
It depends what kind of person gonna be. Sometimes people open for us and just want to help us. It's not exactly help to us, it's help for local residents to get a housing,
Sure.
better housing. Sometimes they're like, prove me. How can I prove you if you're not letting me to do it? If you want to go to another state, go ahead. You can fly there, They don't want to fly anywhere, they just want to prove me. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this castle proves a lot for me because I don't like to believe something until I see it in person. So when people tell me that they did all the lab experiments and it can last the freeze-thaw cycles, I say, okay, great, but let me see one that's been outside for 10 years. So it's good to actually see one outside. been here for 10 years.
I'm excited too. I didn't expect it gonna stay for many years and nothing happened. When I was printing, I was kind of expecting like maybe 2-3 years before it start to fall apart. But year by year, I'm checking. Okay, seems like it still be there, and nothing happened.
So if somebody wants to operate one of your printers, what's the team that you would recommend they operate with?
One guy with mechanical knowledge. They need to understand how belts and pulleys and chains, if something wrong, able to fix it, replace bolts, weld it if you need it, adjust it. Usually guys who are able to fix cars. Another guy who is understand about electronics. Electronics and programming. Sometimes it's not the same. Electronics is how to replace drivers and switches. Not all electricians are able to deal with electronics. It's kind of different animals. One guy who is kind of known about 3D modeling. Usually like architect or drafter or sometimes it's just like some younger guy is able to do it without education.
If he's been 3D printing plastic a lot, he might be able to figure it out.
They usually knows everything about slicers and CAD programs. And at least one guy who knows construction.
Mm-hmm.
Portland cement, sand, tractors, trucks, everything, because like delivery on time, quality of materials. Many times we got problems because people just forgetting to cover cement overnight. Next day when you come, it's kind of wet. That's because that guys have no experience in construction. Most contractors, they gonna come and cover cement. They know it has to be covered. And sand and so several guys in team with different knowledges, experience.
It sounds like 5 different skills, but maybe if one person has 2 skills, you can operate the printer with 3 people or 4 people.
It's possible. But usually the same guys. I'm trying to hire guys who are able to do wiring, plumbing at the same time.
Yeah.
Many guys that have like handymen. I prefer to work with handymans, especially like older guys. They know everything about that.
Yeah.
They know how to fix cars, printers. No problem with the plumbing. Heated floors, it's no problem. Roof, yeah, why not?
The people who could do that stuff, there's not so many of them anymore. It's less and less every year.
Yeah, unfortunately, but still be some people. In smaller towns, there still be some guys who know it.
Yeah.
And when I work in smaller towns, I like to work with such people. Because I don't have to hire a plumber. It's not a big deal to connect a couple pipes. Especially when we printing process, we print like 2 feet. We have to install outlets. We have to print another feet. We have to connect, let's say, pipes for something inside. It's not really good idea to call plumber middle of night and say, okay, we just need to connect to glue one pipe.
You always mix your own material on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
we don't
unique.
buy any material. I mean, we don't buy from other companies.
Too expensive.
It's not too expensive. It's more about specific requirements.
Okay.
Like I said, there's no just one single recipe for printing like in Texas and Minnesota. It will be different recipe, different additives. That's why we not gonna buy it. We just mix it according to our requirements. Even size of house. If it's small house or if it's big house, it's gonna be slightly different additives.
Do you usually have rebar tied into the slab through the whole building, or?
Not all the time. For some location we have to do it because maybe earthquakes.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no need. Printed structures are heavy. If you print it, it's not gonna move anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way tornado gonna lift it. It's too heavy. There's no need rebars to the slab. But if there are any case of like earthquake, yeah, we have to do it.
So I guess you just need compact ground to print on so that it doesn't sink.
That's question to slab guys. We don't do it. We don't do slabs. We usually hire local guys. They know what they're doing. We just print.
This doesn't even have a slab, so it's still sitting pretty well.
Yeah, it doesn't have, like I said, because I did not plan to keep it for a long time. I probably put maybe one rebar around just to keep it in place. Like,
What does your business need right now the most to expand and grow?
well, there are several options. First of all, I'm focusing more on printing hurricane safe, tornado safe houses. But also we are working on bigger scale. I'm going to come back to print houses in a few more countries like we do it before. Hopefully we can do it. But mostly about printing. We try to work in several countries and it's also kind of tricky. You have to know what the guys, you have to have connections there. Without connection, not gonna work at all. You cannot just come with money and start to do it. Finally, you're gonna lose money.
Can we take a look at the costs data from the Dallas project?
Yeah, I just need to find it.
Sure. Is there anything else we should touch on? Anything we forgot to talk about?
I don't know.
We'll get it later if we do.
Yeah, we have to do barbecue. Maybe later we can talk more. Okay, we need some more firewood.